My name is Pete Wright. My wife and I have the website Wrightslaw.com. I am an attorney and specialize in special education. My wife and I have written several books about special education law and advocacy. Today I'm going to talk about the regulation that was revised, and I'm going to talk about the unintended consequences of that regulation, the potential for increased Medicaid fraud. On February 14, 2013, subsection D of 34 CFR Code of Federal Regulations 300.154, so subsection D was revised. The old regulation is at page 218 in our law book, Wrightslaw Special Education Law, so we will take a look at that now. This is the cover of the law book. This is the table of contents. The full text of the Special Education Statute IDA 2004 begins at page 37. The full text of the Federal Special Ed Regs are on page 187. We're going to go now to page 218 where the regulation starts. This is page 218, and the regulation 34 CFR 300.154 begins here, and the first subsection A, responsibility for services. Then next one is subsection B, obligation of non-educational agencies. Subsection C is a special rule. Over on the next page, page 219, then is subsection D, which is the one that we are going to be talking about today. There is a subsection E, children with disabilities who are covered by private insurance, and it explains that with regard to services required to provide FAPE, an agency may access private insurance proceeds only if the parents consent, and each time there has to be consent. But the issue we're concerned about today is the revision to subsection 2, and specifically IV. With this particular subsection IV, the Department of Education deleted both A and B. Now, what I want you to do at this point is, in your law book, or if you don't have the law book but you have this regulation on some other document, take the word each time and highlight it in yellow. And then take all of A and B and put a line cross through, or maybe a series of lines like so, just noting that it has been deleted, but I want that word each time to jump out at you. And then with this portion here, it explains that the agency must notify parents that refusal to allow access to basically to Medicaid does not relieve the public agency of the responsibility. That now has become subsection V. So I want you to put right here a little note to yourself, see the new, and then parentheses, lowercase v, close parentheses, because that says basically the same thing in that revision. And what I had you do then was highlight each time in the old statute, then cross through it. And also what I did not say, so I'm telling you now, right above that, write simply first time. So, and then that's the new law. So only the first time. And then where you've crossed out the V, write a note to yourself to see the new V. So what was changed? Consent is not necessary each time the school district taps into the Medicaid benefits, just the first time. Annually, the school district must provide the parent with notice that they're going to be accessing it, and annually must provide notice that a refusal to consent to their access of it will not relieve the school district of responsibility to provide the child with services. Now, what's the process of revising this regulation? The Department of Ed issued proposed regulations on September 28, 2011, received a number of comments. As a result of those comments, made revisions to the proposed regs and then issued the final regs on February 14. And when they issued those final regs, they were included in a document that we call the commentary, where they provide the some of the comments that were given, and then in that they tell you what they did change and what they did not change. So let's take a moment now and look at the Federal Register. This is the first page of the Federal Register. It was published on February 14, 2013, volume 78, number 31, and it begins at 10525. And I will zoom down just to the very end of it. So it goes a number of pages, and it ends right down here. What I did was I took the Federal Register in the draft that was provided by the U.S. Department of Education on their website, and I reformatted it, making it much easier to read, and then highlighted some of the key provisions, and I put footnotes in there where I expanded on some of the language or explained things. And both the Federal Register and the file that I revised, that I think you'll find easier to read, is on our website. I'll take you there in just a moment. It's on our IDEA 2004 page. But before I do that, on that file that I created, at the very end of that file is a replacement page for your law book. So you can literally simply take that page and put it in your at the back of your law book. I suggest you take that last page, print that. If you can, print it on cardstock paper, and then cut off a 1/4 inch from the top to the bottom and both sides, and keep it in your law book. The Department of Education also issued a guidance memorandum about the revised reg in a frequently asked question format, and that is also on our website. This is the publication issued by the feds, non-regulatory guidance, and you'll see it's got a question answer, and some of these are excellent questions, and the answers really help clarify the position of the U.S. Department of Education. The other publication is the one that I prepared, so let's go to the website and I'll show you the link to it, and then we'll look at it. This is the Wrightslaw.com website. If you go to the left-hand side and scroll down past the list of our training programs and scroll all the way down to the Law Library, and there's a link right here, IDEA 2004. Click on that link. And then that has law and regs here, also here. So click on that. And we'll scroll down a little further. This is the statute and links to each one of these key statutes in IDEA. This is regulations and explains right here, update. On September 28, 2011, the feds issued proposed regs, and they were published in the Federal Register we looked at moments ago, effective March 18. And then click here to see Pete's reformat. So that's the document that I prepared. These are the actual Federal Register we looked at a few minutes ago, and then this is the U.S. Department of Ed's guidance memorandum that we just looked at. So we'll look at my reformatting. This is the document that I prepared, which is taken from the commentary word for word, except for the beginning portion that has my note on the first page. And then at any time you see footnotes or words in bold, those were inserted by me. We won't go through this right now because you can print it out and take a look at it yourself in your own time. But this will be helpful in answering maybe some of the questions you might have about it. But let's jump to the last page. The last page is the one that has the actual revised regulation. So this is D, and it explains here under number 1, the agency may use Medicaid, may not require parents to sign up or enroll in order for the child to receive FAPE, may not require parents to incur out-of-pocket expenses such as deductible or copay, may not use child's benefits to decrease coverage, or it may not increase premiums, and it may not risk loss of eligibility. But the one that was revised was right here, 4, IV 4. And so what I did was I took the old regulation and I put a line through it so you can see, just like was in the book, and then I inserted right here the new revision, the new regulation. And I put a line through the old one and inserted the new B, and then I inserted the brand new subsection 5 here that really is very similar to the old B up there. So all of this is brand new. So I would suggest that you feel free to copy in this page, and I put a little copyright saying you may be photocopied and distributed without further permission. The rule of unintended consequences is sometimes a change to a statute, a regulation, a policy, a procedure can have an unintended consequence that overshadows the intended beneficial effect. So basically, be careful, beware. I'm afraid that with this change in the regulation, there is an increased potential for Medicaid fraud. There is a statute that's known as the whistleblower statute and cases called qui tam cases. My fear is that there's going to be a significant increase. There's going to be billing for services not provided, billing for services by individuals who did not meet the Medicaid criteria for being qualified. Sometimes the errors will be inadvertent, and sometimes they will be deliberate in that the child was supposed to receive speech therapy twice a week, but only received it once a week, and yet the billing was still done. Is increased focus from the federal government on recovering Medicaid dollars, and by state governments. One state website that I read proudly proclaimed that for every dollar they spent on the cost to recover the whole Medicaid fraud unit, they recovered $7. So Medicaid fraud on the net, and here are some websites that we will look at. House of Representatives, this is U.S. Department of Justice. This is an article that was in the New York Daily News. The House of Representatives, in a report about uncovering waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicaid program, singled out an incident up in New York. In the House's report, they noted that Cheryl Carswell, former director of special ed in Buffalo, rubber-stamped 4,000 special ed students onto the Medicaid rolls in a single day. This became, needless to say, a big case. The United States Department of Justice, July 21, 2009, New York State and New York City to pay $540 million to settle allegations of false claims. It notes in here that the allegations arose from 2 lawsuits filed under the qui tam or whistleblower provisions of the False Claims Act and allow private persons known as relators to file actions on behalf of the United States and share in any recovery. The relator in these cases, a speech therapist who provided services to preschool children, alleged that false claims were submitted that did not qualify for Medicaid reimbursement. That person will receive $10 million from the settlement. Another one in May 2009, this is not special ed, this had to do with migrant children. The Department of Ed agreed to pay the U.S. $1.5 million. They submitted false information about migrant children, falsely represented the number of eligible migrant children living in the state, thereby defrauding the government. And this is very recent, October 23, 2012. The government is seeking $2 million. New York City Department of Ed billed Medicaid for student counseling services that were never performed. Medicaid pays $223 fee for each special ed student who receives at least 2 counseling sessions. The U.S. Attorney, we're going to vigorously prosecute, seeking more than $2 million damages. And they learned of this from a whistleblower's lawsuit. So what we see in here, that a lawsuit was filed in 2007, which is now under court seal, and the feds just now are getting involved in it. So this was in October 2012. So this has been an ongoing case for quite some time, and the feds are now getting involved in it. So those are the URLs. If you're a public school employee involved with access to Medicaid funding, perhaps you provide related services of one sort or another, and be sure that you and your agency are entitled to collect. I recommend there be a clear paper trail about what was done, what was not done, who did it, and the person's qualifications. If you are on the front line providing the direct services, assume your records are going to be audited by a stranger, and you will not be present and you will not be able to explain the entries. A stranger should be able to read and understand what services were provided, by whom, and for how long. So that's pretty much the end of it. The essence of it is 34 CFR 300.154 subsection D was revised. It impacts Medicaid. It doesn't have any impact on private insurance. And we looked at all of subsection D. I suggest that you go back and take another look at it again. If you'd like to be notified of future YouTube videos posted by Wrightslaw, subscribe to the Wrightslaw channel. If you'd like to receive our online newsletter, do so on our website. Thank you.